International medical charity Doctors Without Borders confirms the death of 10 children in a Saudi airstrike on a Yemeni school. According to the aid group, 21 children were injured in the Saudi aerial attack in northern Saada province. The charity also slammed the raid, saying all of the victims were between 8 and 15 years old. However, a Saudi general has denied the school attack, saying the Saudi warplanes hit a training center run by the Ansarullah movement. Riyadh has stepped up its attacks against Yemen since the UN-sponsored peace talks in Kuwait collapsed last week. Saudi Arabia started its war against Yemen in March 2015. Nearly 9,600 Yemenis, mostly civilians, have been killed in the onslaught. Investigative journalist Tony Gosling joins us now from Bristol. Sir, welcome to the program. Medecins Sans Frontieres has joined the long list of medical charities and rights groups that have condemned the massacring of Yemeni children due to the Saudi airstrikes. What's clear now is that the casualty numbers of civilians is staggering and the violence is appalling.
Well, one of the recent statements from the Saudi royal family was "time is on our side," which is a chilling statement. It's actually a horrifying statement, isn't it? Because what it means is that if we keep going long enough, there will be no children left in Yemen. Now, what's going on here is the use of armed force, which is supposed to be facing another army of some kind, whether it be maybe ground forces of anti-aircraft guns, or military bases on the ground, being used against children and civilians, with the same sort of thing as we've seen in Palestine with the Israelis smashing Gaza to pieces a few years ago. So it's actually echoed here in the West, in the United States and in Britain, by the support that those countries are giving for the Saudi Arabians. Now, I mean, you have to look at what is really going on here, because it does seem, you know, Yemen is the poorest country in the Middle East, the oldest, maturest civilization is in the entire world, and it's being bombed back to the Stone Age by Britain and the United States, and who are supporting the Saudi Arabians. But why? The West has the West discovered oil there? Some people are asking, and they want to get the people out of the way so they can exploit it. I think it's much more likely that actually the Saudi royal family is looking more and more fragile every day, and so that any well-organized society around them, particularly a mature one like in Yemen, where actually many people actually carry handguns. People don't realize this, and yet the maturity of the civilization is such that there are very, very few arguments and deaths because of it. Not like the United States, the complete opposite. So actually this is just a symptom of the moral barrenness of the West, and also the fragility of Saudi Arabia. Maybe the Saudis are going to be toppled by their own people, and that's why they're frightened of Yemen, is because Yemen is actually a mature society nearby, which may be part of or a threat to the royal family, and there's no elections there. This is total despotism.
Mr. Gosling, there's one big question. With so much tangible and solid evidence as to the death of children in Yemen as a result of the Saudi bombardments, why did the United Nations refuse to put the Saudis on the list of child rights violators?
Well, I think this is because the United Nations is losing its credibility, rather like the League of Nations did in the run-up to the Second World War. There are all sorts of pressures been put on them. I mean, for example, the Israelis took over one of their judicial committees recently. I mean, the idea that Israel should be an arbiter for the justice of the world is a horrifying joke, really, because, of course, they shouldn't. Various of the important committees at the United Nations have been taken over by Western governments, and that's a very bad sign. It really shows that, rather like we've seen with the Olympic scandal, with the so-called doping scandal, that all international institutions have been targeted mainly by the United States, by the Pentagon, as part of an all-round war against, mainly actually against Russia, but against many of the independent countries that are in between the West and Russia, including, of course, Yemen and Syria. mainly Syria. We've heard, of course, this week that that there are special forces, admittedly special forces from the British, that is the SAS, people like this, actually running around and doing training, etc., inside Syria without any kind of parliamentary oversight whatsoever in Britain. So there is a complete ignoring of many of these issues by the London media, so that the British people do not know what's being done in their name.
Investigative journalist Tony Gosling joining us from Bristol. Thank you, sir.